all philosophy would change, at least in the universities, if tonight's lecture can make its point. In principle, we're talking really about what Plato in the Phaedo describes as true philosophy. If it is correct that death is an out-of-body experience, and the whole beginning of the Phaedo, some greatest part of it deals with this process of dying and being in a state of death, then if it could be reduced to some process, some method, then we would be introducing a kind of, let me give it a name, a yoga of death. One A and 1B for 3 units at the local college and university. The Greeks wouldn't call it a yoga, they'd call it a paideia, because that's the process, the highest process of nurturing, the highest sense of educating. But we'll use the common word yoga. Well, let's take a look at how he builds this. Plato is very artful. He starts it on one level and he builds it kind of like a crescendo, and then it has subsidiary themes that he casts in front of him that then resolve themselves on a higher level. Let's see how he did it. The Phaedo is Plato's dialogue that centers around the death of Socrates. He's in jail, awaiting death. Therefore, we have a very interesting scene for the whole subject of death, since Socrates is waiting his execution. And so he has a dialogue with the people about him, and Socrates says that if Evenus is wise, he'll come after me as quickly as he can. And people are shocked because they know Socrates is going to be put to his death. And so they want to know, what do you mean by that? If he is wise, all right, if he is wise, why would he then want to come after me as quickly as he can? Socrates then adds to the drama and he says, so will every man who has any worthy interest in philosophy. He says, of course, look here. While it's true that it is not permitted to take one's life, suicide, but that the philosopher would desire to follow after the dying. Now, it looks like, therefore, we have a group of people who desire death, want to pursue it, want to get into it, and others want to avoid it just as much, if not more. Right? Avoid death as long as possible. He says, these are the true philosophers. They deserve it. I said, these human beings for whom it is better to die cannot, without impiety good for themselves, they must wait for some benefactor. All right, they have to wait for some benefactor. This is a curious notion. It applies to both. It applies to both. But we want to see in what way it applies to the philosopher. Well, look. It's the reason we can't arbitrarily end our life is because we are the chattels of the gods. We are their possessions. Therefore, we don't have a right to kill ourselves. A man cannot kill himself until God sends some necessity upon him. Some necessity. He said, that's what's happened to me. now. You know, God is our guardian, and we are his possessions. He reasons this way. And finally it reaches a crisis, you see, and they reject this review. And he says, all right then, I'll tell you what. He said, you people here, be my judges, and let me reason it out and try to show you what I mean. He makes 3 points, and then he adds a third, and that starts the drama of the dialogue. He says, I believe I'm going to other wise and good gods. 1. I'm going to men better than those here. And I'm going to gods who are good masters. So he's got wise and good and masterful gods. And he thinks he's going to men who are better than those that are here. Therefore, he has some view about the afterworld that includes those elements. But then he goes on and adds a fourth. He says, but those who have spent his life in philosophy are naturally of good courage. You see, because they're going to attain the greatest blessings in that other land. So, what does he expect? He's going to go to wise and good gods. They're all good masters. He's going to encounter men better than they are here. And he thinks, therefore, those who spent their life in philosophy are naturally of good courage, and they're going to attain the greatest blessings. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's his goal. But behind it, he has to talk about what kind of a death it is that these philosophers are pursuing. Oh, yeah. If he's wise, he should come after me as quickly as he can. So will every man who has any worthy interest in philosophy. Yet the philosopher desires to follow after the dying. Well, I've selected about 10 or 11 quotes in a series that I'd like to share with you, that he's going to build his case. And he starts by making the most important distinction, because it should wake us up. Other people are not likely to be aware that those who pursue philosophy aright study nothing but dying and being dead.